The Way of Man, according to the Teaching of Hasidism by Martin Buber, quotes, The Way of Man, according to the Teaching of Hasidism by Martin Buber, explores the core principles of Hasidic thought, using stories and teachings from the Hasidic masters to provide deep insights into human existence and spirituality. Through 6 carefully chosen lectures, Buber reflects on self-awareness, human relationships, and our responsibilities in life, emphasizing the importance of beginning with oneself and recognizing the sacred in everyday life. Buber's focus on the idea of each person having a unique path to follow underscores his central theme that each individual must cultivate a personal, direct relationship with God and the world around them. His use of Hasidic stories illustrates the spiritual challenges faced by all individuals and the importance of living a meaningful and purposeful life in relation to others and to the divine. Quote 1. Where are you in your world? Already so many of your allotted years and days have passed. How far have you come in your world? This quote highlights a central Hasidic teaching about self-reflection and personal accountability. The question is not simply an inquiry into one's physical location, but a profound spiritual challenge asking where one stands in life. It urges individuals to reflect on the time they have spent and the progress they have made. It serves as a reminder that life is fleeting, and each person must consider how they are fulfilling their purpose in the world. The rabbi's question is deeply personal, aiming to stir the chief's conscience and prompt him to evaluate his own life choices. Quote 2. Every person hides, because every person is Adam, in Adam's quandary. This statement suggests that just as Adam hid from God after sinning, every individual similarly hides from facing their own shortcomings and responsibilities. It reflects the universal human tendency to avoid accountability and self-reflection, creating hiding places to escape from the truth of one's own actions. This hiding is not just from others, but from oneself and from God. The quote teaches that this evasion only entangles individuals further in a web of deception and irresponsibility, making it harder to face their true selves. Quote 3. God's question means to stir us up. It means to destroy our hiding places. It means to show us where we went astray. This highlights the transformative nature of God's inquiry into our lives. Rather than seeking information, God's question is meant to disrupt the comfort of self-deception, confronting us with our own moral failings. It pushes us to recognize the ways in which we have strayed from the right path. The goal is not to punish, but to awaken a desire within us to correct our mistakes and return to a life of meaning and purpose. It shows that self-awareness is the first step to change, and God's question is the catalyst for that awareness. Quote 4. Self-awareness can be decisive only if it leads to the way. Here, self-awareness is portrayed as the starting point of personal growth, but only if it is followed by action. Simply recognizing one's faults or the errors in their life is not enough. True self-awareness must inspire a person to change their behavior, to embark on a path toward improvement and redemption. Without this commitment to change, self-awareness becomes a source of despair and self-torment, as it reveals faults without offering a way forward. This quote emphasizes that self-awareness should be constructive, leading to a purposeful life. Quote 5. Esau's way of asking is demonic. He poses a pseudo-question, which only apes the question of God, the question of truth. In this quote, Esau symbolizes a destructive force that distorts the truth. His questions, unlike God's, are not meant to guide or enlighten, but to deceive and discourage. The pseudo-question mimics true self-examination, but, instead of leading to positive change, it traps individuals in a sense of hopelessness. Esau's questioning undermines the possibility of redemption by making it seem as though there is no way back from one's errors. This teaches the danger of false self-awareness, which can lead to deeper entanglement in despair instead of offering a path to renewal. Quote 6. There is no such thing as telling a person which way to go. God may be served by way of study, or by way of prayer, or by way of fasting, or by way of eating. This quote reflects the diversity of paths toward spiritual fulfillment in Hasidic thought. It underscores the notion that no one specific practice or behavior guarantees connection with God, but rather, each person must find their own unique way. Whether through acts of devotion, reflection, or even daily practices like eating, the individual's heart must guide them to serve God in the manner that resonates most deeply with their nature. It emphasizes that spirituality is personal and cannot be prescribed uniformly. Quote 7. Every individual is a new entity in the world and must strive to perfect his individual nature in this world. This quote emphasizes the importance of individuality and uniqueness in spiritual growth. It asserts that every person is created with distinct qualities and, therefore, has a unique role to fulfill. The purpose of life, according to this teaching, is to cultivate one's own inherent nature rather than to imitate others. This individuality is not merely an accident, but a divine mandate, encouraging each person to focus on their unique path and contribution to the world. Through this, each individual brings something new and vital to the collective spiritual journey. Quote 8. In the world to come, I will not be asked, "Why were you not Moses?" Instead, I will be asked, "Why were you not Zusia?" This profound statement conveys the essential Hasidic teaching that personal authenticity is central to one's spiritual journey. Rather than striving to emulate the greatness of others, each person is called to become the truest version of themselves. The quote reflects the belief that spiritual success is measured not by how well one imitates another's deeds, but by how fully one realizes their own potential. It is a reminder that the path to God is deeply individual, and only by embracing who we truly are can we fulfill our spiritual purpose. Quote 9. What sort of God would have only one way in which to be served? This exclamation challenges the notion of a singular, prescribed way to worship or connect with God. It affirms that God is vast and inclusive, able to be reached through a multitude of paths. This idea celebrates the richness of human diversity and suggests that the many different ways people approach spirituality are all valid, as long as they lead toward a deeper relationship with the divine. The quote invites an open-minded perspective, encouraging individuals to find their own path without being confined to rigid expectations. Quote 10. There is something precious in every individual that is not present in any other. This quote highlights the Hasidic view of human uniqueness and the divine significance of individuality. It teaches that every person carries within them a quality or potential that is entirely their own, a quality that no one else can replicate. This preciousness is not just an aspect of personal identity, but is crucial for the fulfillment of one's spiritual purpose. The message is one of self-discovery and the belief that the world needs each person to express their unique qualities in order to bring about the full realization of divine intention. Quote 11. Better I should drink than have my heart filled with arrogance. This quote illustrates the Hasid's internal struggle between physical temptation and spiritual pride. The Hasid chooses to drink not because of physical need, but because he recognizes that the pride of resisting thirst could lead to arrogance. He realizes that spiritual achievements should not lead to self-glorification. The lesson is that humility must always prevail, even if it means letting go of a seemingly noble act. By acknowledging his pride, the Hasid demonstrates a deeper spiritual awareness, understanding that arrogance is a greater flaw than breaking his fast. Quote 12. This is not the way to attain a higher rung. The seer's remark to the Hasid emphasizes that spiritual progress cannot be achieved through external acts of discipline alone, such as fasting, without a deeper unification of the soul. The teacher points out that the Hasid's attempt to advance spiritually was fragmented, zigzagging between pride and humility. True progress requires an inner coherence and unity of purpose. The seer's critique is not about the Hasid's effort, but about his approach, reminding him that personal growth must come from an integrated and unified soul, not from isolated acts of asceticism. Quote 13. The soul has the power to unify itself. This statement highlights the Hasidic belief in the transformative potential within every person. Even those with complicated self-contradictory souls have the ability to gather their fragmented energies and achieve spiritual coherence. The soul is seen as having an innate divine force that can align its conflicting aspects, but this unification must happen before one embarks on significant spiritual work. The idea here is that inner harmony is the foundation for true spiritual accomplishment, and it is within everyone's capacity to achieve this unification, though it may take time and effort. Quote 14. You may only move forward and never turn to move back. This quote, drawn from the metaphor of playing checkers, conveys a fundamental Hasidic teaching about persistence and forward momentum in spiritual life. Once a person commits to a path, they must continue to advance, never retreating to old ways or falling back into previous states of mind. The lesson here is that spiritual progress requires constant forward movement, and setbacks or reversals hinder one's journey. It encourages steadfastness and the courage to keep moving ahead, even when faced with challenges or temptations. Quote 15. Every deed that we do should engage every limb of our bodies. This teaching, attributed to the Baal Shem Tov, underscores the importance of complete involvement in every action. It calls for a unification of body and spirit in the service of God, suggesting that true spiritual work involves the whole person. When actions are performed with total engagement, they become acts of spiritual significance. The quote emphasizes that nothing should be done half-heartedly. Both physical and spiritual energy must be unified in every task, creating a harmonious and holistic approach to life and service. Quote 16. Talk to yourself. This quote reflects the advice given by Rabbi David of Lelov, emphasizing that the root of interpersonal conflict often lies within the individual themselves. Rabbi Yitzhak's frustration with his wife and servants was not due to their faults, but rather due to his own internal struggles. The advice to talk to yourself directs him to introspection, suggesting that self-awareness and self-discipline are essential in resolving conflicts. It highlights the Hasidic belief that peace and harmony in the external world begin with inner clarity and self-understanding. Quote 17. Everything depended on my own self. This statement reveals a profound insight into the Hasidic understanding of responsibility and self-mastery. Rabbi Yitzhak comes to realize that the order and peace he seeks in his household are contingent upon his ability to manage his own inner world. It points to the Hasidic teaching that transformation of one's environment and relationships starts with personal transformation. Rather than blaming others, one must take responsibility for their own actions, thoughts, and feelings, recognizing that inner harmony leads to external harmony. Quote 18. The source of all conflicts between me and my fellow humans is that I do not say what I mean, and I do not do what I say. This quote underscores the essential Hasidic teaching on integrity and coherence in human interactions. It suggests that conflicts arise when there is a disconnect between a person's thoughts, words, and actions. When a person fails to align these aspects of their being, their relationships with others become disordered and strained. The quote reflects the idea that personal integrity, acting in accordance with one's true intentions and words, is crucial for maintaining peace and avoiding misunderstandings in relationships. Quote 19. Seek peace in your place. This teaching by Rabbi Bunim advises individuals to focus on finding inner peace before seeking to resolve external conflicts. It suggests that the search for peace must begin within oneself, as external peace is a reflection of inner harmony. Without first achieving peace in one's own heart, efforts to create peace in the world will be futile. This idea reinforces the Hasidic belief in the importance of self-awareness and inner transformation as the foundation for a peaceful and harmonious existence in the larger world. Quote 20. Where did I leave myself? This humorous yet profound story about the simpleton who could not find himself after dressing represents the deeper Hasidic concept of self-awareness. The tale illustrates how easy it is for individuals to lose touch with their true selves amidst the routines and external distractions of daily life. Despite having everything in place externally, the simpleton could not locate his inner self. The story serves as a metaphor for the importance of finding one's true self, beyond the physical or material aspects of existence, and the necessity of continuous self-reflection in the spiritual journey. Quote 21. Forget yourself and have the whole world in mind. This quote emphasizes the Hasidic teaching that true spiritual transformation is not about focusing solely on oneself, but about turning outward to the needs of the world. Rabbi Eliezer's advice to Rabbi Haim suggests that preoccupation with personal shortcomings can limit one's spiritual growth. Instead, one should direct their energy toward contributing to the world and serving others. The ultimate goal is to transcend the ego and fulfill a higher purpose by aligning personal transformation with the betterment of the world. Quote 22. To begin with oneself, yes, but not to end with oneself. This statement captures the balance between self-awareness and selflessness in Hasidic teaching. It affirms that personal reflection and spiritual growth are essential, but they must not become an end in themselves. Rather, the purpose of beginning with oneself is to eventually move beyond the self and contribute to the greater good. The quote teaches that self-awareness is only a stage in the spiritual journey, one that should lead to actions that benefit others and the world, not just personal salvation. Quote 23. He who continually talks and dwells upon the evil that he has done cannot cease to think about the meanness of his deeds. This quote conveys a warning about the dangers of excessive self-recrimination. Constantly fixating on past wrongs can entrench a person in negativity, preventing them from moving forward. The teaching here is that dwelling on one's sins leads to spiritual stagnation and even depression. Instead of becoming mired in guilt, individuals are encouraged to focus on doing good, thus transforming their energy into positive actions. The message is that true repentance comes not from endless regret, but from redirecting one's efforts toward good deeds. Quote 24. The soul should act neither for earthly fortune nor for the sake of heavenly reward. This statement highlights the Hasidic belief that spiritual efforts should be motivated by a desire to serve God and the world, rather than by personal gain or the pursuit of salvation. It challenges the idea of self-interest in spiritual practice, whether in this life or the next. The focus is on fulfilling one's divine purpose, contributing to the spiritual elevation of the world, and acting selflessly. This teaching encourages individuals to move beyond selfish concerns and to dedicate their actions to a higher, communal purpose. Quote 25. He who does not have himself in mind is given all the keys. This quote illustrates the power of humility in Hasidic thought. Rabbi Buber's teaching suggests that those who relinquish self-centeredness and focus on serving others are granted spiritual insight and authority. By not being preoccupied with their own desires, these individuals are able to access deeper spiritual truths and responsibilities. The message is clear. The path to spiritual wisdom and greatness lies in letting go of ego and self-interest, and embracing humility and selflessness in service to the divine and the world. Quote 26. There is something that you cannot find anywhere in the world, not even at the Tzaddik's house, and yet a place exists where you can find it. This quote emphasizes the Hasidic teaching that the fulfillment of one's existence is not to be found by seeking external sources or through the guidance of even the most revered spiritual leaders. Instead, The true treasure lies within oneself, and it can only be uncovered in the specific circumstances and place where one stands. It speaks to the idea that personal growth, purpose, and spiritual discovery must begin with an inward journey rather than an outward quest, and that each individual holds the key to their own fulfillment. Quote 27. The place where this treasure may be found is the place where one stands. This quote captures the essence of the teaching that spiritual fulfillment and purpose are to be found in the immediate circumstances of our lives. It suggests that instead of searching elsewhere for meaning, we must recognize that the present moment and the place we occupy contain the potential for our deepest spiritual realization. The teaching encourages people to engage fully with their current environment, relationships, and tasks, acknowledging that the treasure they seek is not far away, but right where they are. Quote 28. Even knowledge of the secrets of heaven could not provide for us the same share of true existence that we gain by performing our requisite quotidian work with sacred intent. This quote highlights the Hasidic belief that true spiritual fulfillment comes not from mystical knowledge or extraordinary spiritual experiences, but from carrying out the everyday tasks of life with a sense of sacred purpose. It teaches that the ordinary work of life, when done with intention and mindfulness, holds more spiritual value than abstract knowledge or distant aspirations. The simple, mundane actions of life are seen as opportunities to connect with the divine and achieve a deep sense of fulfillment. Quote 29. Let us draw God into the world, and everything will be settled. This statement reflects the Hasidic view that divine presence can be brought into the world through human action. It teaches that by living with sacred intent and engaging in meaningful, righteous deeds, humans can invite God into their everyday lives, thereby transforming their surroundings and alleviating suffering. The quote conveys the idea that divine intervention is not something to wait passively for, but rather something humans can actively contribute to by living in accordance with spiritual values. Quote 30. God dwells wherever one lets God in. This quote encapsulates the belief that the presence of God is not limited to specific places or events, but can be felt wherever individuals open their hearts and lives to the divine. It emphasizes the personal responsibility of each person to create space for God in their lives, suggesting that divine connection is always available, but depends on one's openness and willingness to receive it. This teaching encourages individuals to cultivate an awareness of the sacred in their everyday lives and to actively invite God's presence into their world. The Way of Man, according to the Teaching of Hasidism by Martin Buber, leaves readers with the profound understanding that true spiritual growth and fulfillment come from self-awareness and from living authentically in one's current circumstances. Buber's reflections remind us that every individual has a unique role to play in the world, and that personal transformation begins when we confront our inner conflicts and strive for a meaningful connection with others. His teachings, rooted in the wisdom of the Hasidic masters, encourage us to transcend self-centeredness, to embrace our responsibilities, and to seek the divine in the everyday. Through these transformative lessons, Buber offers a timeless guide to living a life of purpose, rooted in humility, compassion, and dialogue with the sacred.
Curious to dive into the mind of Martin Buber? With StudyLab Pro's Book GPT, it's possible. Ask questions, explore themes, and discover the depths of the Way of Man, according to the Teaching of Hasidism, in an entirely new way. Start your conversation now by clicking on our logo. And if you're hungry for more educational content, subscribe to our channel to keep discovering, learning, and growing. Want more than just videos? Click on our logo now to join us on our platform for multiple choice tests, in-depth content, and tools to help you ace your studies. Get started now.